George Foreman has died at the age of 76. We just saw this posted on Instagram. It reads,
"The only thing harder than becoming a heavyweight champion is becoming a champion again. A young man from the streets of Texas, an Olympic gold medalist, a world champion, then a preacher, a father, a millionaire, and then a fighter again. George Foreman didn't just fight in the ring, he fought life, and he won. In the world of heavyweight boxing, few names evoke the kind of raw power and fear that George Foreman once did. Born January 10th, 1949, in the poverty-stricken neighborhoods of Marshall, Texas, and raised in Houston's notorious Fifth Ward, Foreman's early life was anything but promising. He was angry, directionless, a street brawler with no plan, until a government program called the Job Corps took him in. There, he discovered boxing. At just 19, he stunned the world by winning gold in the 1968 Olympics. 2 years later, he turned pro, and in just 37 fights, he was standing face-to-face with Joe Frazier. January 22nd, 1973, Kingston, Jamaica, Foreman versus Frazier. The world watched in awe as Joe Frazier hit the canvas 6 times in just 2 rounds. Howard Cosell screamed it, "Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!" And just like that, George Foreman was the new heavyweight champion of the world. He was young, brutal, unstoppable. In the eyes of many, Foreman was a villain, the anti-Ali, stoic, menacing, unforgiving in the ring. Then came Zaire. October 30th, 1974, the Rumble in the jungle. Foreman was the favorite, undefeated, dangerous. But Muhammad Ali didn't just beat George Foreman, he dismantled him. Psychologically, physically, publicly. Ali's rope-a-dope technique wore Foreman down, round by round. Then in the 8th, the unthinkable, Foreman hit the floor, knocked out. And just like that, the monster was no longer unbeatable. The loss changed something in George Foreman. He wasn't the same fighter. He wasn't the same man. 3 years later, in 1977, he fought Jimmy Young in Puerto Rico. Foreman lost. But the real story? What happened after the fight? In the locker room, Foreman collapsed. He said he saw death. He claimed he was taken, spiritually, to the edge of life, where a voice told him to change his ways. He called it a religious awakening. Some thought he was having a breakdown, but to George, it was a rebirth. He quit boxing, cold turkey, gave up the spotlight, and disappeared into a life of faith. He became Reverend George Foreman, running a church in Houston, working with troubled youth, and building a new identity, one that had nothing to do with belts or blood. But there was another reality. He was broke. Millions lost in bad investments. The fame was gone. The money was gone. In 1987, after a full decade away from boxing, Foreman, now 38 years old and almost 50 pounds heavier, announced the unthinkable. "I'm coming back." The sports world laughed. He was too old, too fat, too slow. But George wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing redemption, and a way to keep his youth center alive. Fight by fight, he worked his way back up. He was older, yes, but smarter, tougher. He leaned into his image, the smiling preacher in red trunks, a kind giant who still carried thunder in both hands. Then came November 5th, 1994, George Foreman versus Michael Moorer. Moorer was 26 undefeated, a technical powerhouse. For 9 rounds, Moorer dominated, but Foreman waited. And in round 10, boom, a right hand from the gods. Moorer hit the canvas. George Foreman, at 45 years old, became the oldest heavyweight champion in history. He didn't just win a fight, he won the impossible. Foreman retired, again. But this time, on his terms. He could have faded out. Instead, he flipped the script one more time. Enter the George Foreman grill. At first, he turned it down. Then he tried it. "This could change the world," he said. And it did. Over 100 million grills sold. Foreman made over $200 million, more than he ever earned in the ring. He became a pop culture icon, with TV appearances, commercials, books, and even cartoons. He turned his smile into a brand, and that brand fed generations. But perhaps George Foreman's proudest legacy? His family. He had 12 children, including 5 sons, all named George, so that, in his words, they'd always have something in common. He mentored, inspired, and guided countless young athletes. And he never stopped preaching about faith, discipline, and second chances. Through heart attacks, personal loss, and media skepticism, Foreman stood tall. In March 2025, the world lost George Foreman. But loss may be the wrong word, because George Foreman was more than a boxer, more than a grill salesman, more than a preacher. He was proof, living proof, that you can fall and rise, that you can be broken and still be whole, that even the hardest-hitting man in the ring can have the softest heart outside it. George Foreman, 1949 to 2025, champion, preacher, icon, and the man who never stopped fighting until the very end.